And I understand the governor's desire to upfront be able to say, everybody is going to be cut by X percent. And, people say, well, why should you be treated any differently than anybody else? And my answer is, which I think I laid out in this speech, what are the consequences of treating us the same? Because we don't have programs to cut. We have essentially people. So if we have to cut the amounts of monies that are being talked about, we would have to close down large parts of this court system. And I don't think that's helpful for New York State, helpful for the governor, and certainly not helpful for the people of this state and the judicial system. And I know, he's the first who would agree that you have to have a fully functioning judicial system to attract business to this state. And let me say, too, let me make this crystal clear. I am supportive of what he's trying to do. I mean, I praise him. I think he's going to be a great governor. I think he's doing what he has to do. I mean, you have to be living in a vacuum to not understand that, the expenditures in this state have to be cut.
Carol DeMar from the Times.
Yes, Ken, how are you?
On judicial campaign contributions.
Yes.
I'm sure you're aware that if you review those financial disclosure records, you will see that many lawyers and law firms contribute to both candidates.
Yes, I know.
And I think they would argue that they don't expect special treatment since their contribution to the Republican candidate was the same as their contribution to the Democratic candidate. How would you answer them, or
it's a good question.
Judges as to your policy?
It's a good question. My view is the only thing we have in this judiciary, the one thing that we have is faith in our impartiality. If we don't have a confidence that we're neutral in legal cases, then we've lost everything that judiciary is about. So what I'm fundamentally concerned here with is the appearance. I'm not accusing a judge or a lawyer. In fact, I tried to go to great lengths in my remarks to say I'm not saying there's anything wrong here. What I'm saying, the danger to the judiciary of having people lose faith in our impartiality. It is so great that we took this action. There was a poll a number of years ago in relation to the Ferret Commission report where they recommended a different way of approaching this, that asked the public, do you think that judges who receive campaign contributions from lawyers or parties are influenced by those contributions? Overwhelmingly, they said yes. And since the Caperton decision, of the U.S. Supreme Court, that appearance issue has become so much greater, and judiciaries around the country are looking at how do we deal with this. The ABA meeting that they just finished is focusing on how do you deal with recusal rules. What we've tried to do is just put all that aside and say we're going right to the core here. We're saying as a matter of court system policy, the judge doesn't have to stand up and someone gave me a contribution, I recuse, like he or she did something wrong. The lawyer doesn't have to get up in court and say, well, I gave a contribution, I know it might influence the judge. None of that. We're just not going to assign those cases administratively as a matter of policy, and we're the first state in the country to take this approach. And I think you bypass all of these nuanced discussions of when a judge should recuse or not to recuse. To me, almost misses the point. The point is the public feels that there is an appearance of impropriety and that we are, again, the neutral arbiter, and that I cannot, as the chief judge, and this court system cannot accept a culture in which that's the way people view these things.
Are you saying in the pilot program or otherwise that people who face foreclosures have a legal right to an attorney?
It matters what you mean by right. What I'm trying to get across to everybody is that there may be a constitutional right that the United States Supreme Court has laid out in criminal cases. I think that people do have a right, but I would define right as the moral and ethical duty that we have to support the poor and the vulnerable in this state when you're dealing with legal matters that have to do with the necessities of life. I believe that that's a right. It's not a right in the same sense as the Supreme Court found in Gideon versus Wainwright. But yes, I think I would say that this is on two different levels. One, there's a moral and ethical obligation, and I'd say to you, not to be a biblical scholar, which I'm not, but the Old Testament doesn't talk about rights. It talks about obligations. And this is our obligation. And on that level, yes, it's a right. And second, for the financial well-being of this state, I'm saying that for every dollar that you spend on civil legal services, $5 are returned to the state. And for the bottom line well-being of the state, civil legal services has to be funded. This isn't just the do-gooders, and I count myself among the do-gooders, and I'm proud of it. But this is not about just doing good deeds. This is about securing the well-being, financial well-being of the state, and allowing these people to fall off the cliff and go into homelessness and all the social services expenses and even incarceration and not getting the federal benefits that is their right and entitlement is a mistake, and a bad mistake, again, on the equal justice basis, but also in terms of the sound fiscal well-being of the state.